And he took out the gun and he lifted it up. And in my face, there's 2 marks. This side of my face, there's a mark here where the bullet went in. This side here of my face, there's a mark where the bullet came out.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Wide Awake podcast. I am your host, Joshua Rubin.
Are you ready?
Today, I have a very special guest. He goes by the name of Denzil. Good start.
Yeah, all good.
Denzil Moses. He is an ex-gang member, and he is actually, he works with a man called Jared Smith, who was on the podcast a few weeks ago, and they run the Second Chance Foundation together.
Absolutely, we run the Second Chance. I'm more on the grassroots level. I'm working with the communities and with ex-gang members and guys that's in the gangs or young men that's dabbling with it. So that's my level of expertise in the communities, yeah.
Amazing, man.
Yeah.
And your story is very powerful and extremely heartbreaking. I think let's start, I always start from the beginning, just to show where you came from. So, I mean, where did you grow up?
Look, I was born in a community called Elsies River, Clark Estate. And I was born there in a shack. And I always asked my mommy, why am I born in a shack and why aren't my other brothers and sisters born in a shack? But I always come to this conclusion. It doesn't matter where you're born or what community you come from. All of that doesn't determine who you will become as a person. So I was born in Elsies and we moved to Mitchell's Plain. That's where I actually started growing up in Mitchell's Plain. When we moved there, I was about 5 or so in Mitchell's Plain, you know. So we grew up there with a family of 8 kids, 4 brothers and 4 sisters. Quite a lot. I think there wasn't TV, so there was a lot of radio playing with love songs. That's why we saw a lot of kids. But any rate, so that's where I grew up as a young boy, and that's where everything started for me as a young boy. I can remember as a young boy growing up within the community, there was little playgrounds. You will get the one seesaw in the park and one swings or whatsoever. Then you literally as a young boy had to fight to be on the seesaw or to be on the swing. Otherwise, if you didn't fight to be on there, you would have just sat there one side and looking to the kids having fun. So at small age already, you started fighting to be part of something that you wanted in life, whether for good or for bad. I think everything started for me basically when my father was my role model. And I looked up to him as a role model, you know. And as a young boy, my grandma, who lived in Garden Village, as young kids, we went to my grandma's house. And when we get to my grandma's house, obviously my grandma was a drug dealer. So when we got there, she would have this check overall, either blue or pink ones that she wear. And then people would come knock on the door, and we would go to her, and she would give us, we would take the money from the people by the door, we would take it to her, and she would give us, like, they'll call it a pill in the stop, which is Mandrex and Dacha, and we would give it back to the guys there at the door. And that's how I actually got exposed to the drugs firsthand by my grandma. And my uncles were all drug dealers and gang leaders, you know, within the community there also. And when they said things, people listened. I didn't want to be like that. I had a dream to become a social worker, to help people, you know, to be an influencer in the community by helping others. But the choices that I started making slowly but surely started taking me away from my dream and towards another direction in life. Where I grew up also, most of my cousins and so forth were involved in gangs and drugs and so forth. My 2 older brothers was also involved within my household that I was living in. And like I said, my father was my role model, and I looked up to him. And at that time, he had a heart transplant, and his heart didn't work. He went for the heart transplant, he came back, and he got sick afterwards. A few months after that, he got sick. And his heart didn't work with his other organs, as his organs had rejected the heart. And he got very sick, and I can remember that day I didn't go to school. I was in grade 3, I think. And my mom phoned the ambulance, and I can remember the ambulance came and they picked him up. And when they took him to hospital, he was about 2 weeks in hospital. And when he came home after the 2 weeks, he came home in a coffin. And for me as a young boy, I was I can't even say how I felt. Because the person that I could look up to, the person that I could speak to in my house, was no longer there, you know. He just disappeared and he came back dead in a coffin.
And was your dad also involved in gang activity, or?
Look, my dad was one of that. At that time, you know, if you looked at the gangs of that time, they didn't tell people that they were gangs. They were called scollies or whatever, but they were dressed nicely in suits and whatever. His father was a bank robber. He went, they call it a blowbaatsie. He had 2 blowbaatzies for robbing banks. So he had 2 lives, so to say, for robbing banks and so forth. But my daddy's mom, she was somebody that didn't smoke, that didn't do anything wrong, drink or anything like that. So she implanted good models into my father. And I suppose he also tried to do that into his kids, you know. So I can't say that I know my father as a gang member. I can't even say I never saw my father even hit my mom or something like that. He was one of the guys that all of his friends would come and they would drink there at home, but he would go to sleep. He wouldn't be violent in the house and so forth, you know. So my mom was more the harder one because she grew up. Her mom was a drug dealer. Her brothers was in the gangs and drug dealers also. No? So she was the more harder one. And I think I just started rebelling when my father passed away. Started bunking school, started acting out at home, started looking for that father figure that I couldn't find in my home. I wanted it, so I started looking for it within the community. And it was in the community that was the grown men that was there that I started looking up to. That was the gang leaders and the drug dealers. So I didn't mind that I was 11, 12 years old when these men tell me to go and steal, to go and rob, to go and do certain stuff. I didn't mind to go and do it because it was these men that when I came back that gave me affirmation. They told me that you're doing well. You're going to become somebody in life. Keep on doing what you're doing. And for me, I kept on doing what I was doing because it was like my father that was speaking to me because it was grown men. And so I just kept on doing the negative things, you know. Got expelled from school for selling drugs on school, gang activity on school. So I sold my dream of becoming a social worker because I thought that I was accepted within this community of gang members within my community. So I gave up on my dream to pursue a dream that was leading me to death, that was leading me to destruction, you know. But I didn't care because I felt that I belonged. I felt that I had the sense of belonging and I was amongst my family, so to say.
You mentioned that you have 8 siblings.
Yep.
4 brothers and 4 sisters.
Correct.
Did you guys all live under the same roof?
All lived under the same roof. And the 2 older brothers, they were part of different gangs. All of us, we weren't in one gang. So we were all in different gangs because all of us had that leadership potential within us and nobody wanted to submit under the other. And so we all joined different gangs and wanting to step in that positions where you got respected within the community, within your home, amongst one another.
And before you did join a gang, how did you view gangs and gang leaders? Did you think that they were someone to look up to?
Well, like I said, when I went to my grandma's house, I saw my uncles. They had Chevrolets, Valiants, and all of these cars, these big cars, and they had like lots of money and people coming to them. So I envied the way they were living, you know, the people that they were associated with and so forth, you know. So it was a thing that attracted me, even though I had a dream to become a social worker and help people. When I got exposed really to that world, it really attracted me. So slowly but slowly, I was starting to give up on my own dream to live this life that I thought was giving life to others, because it was giving life to my uncles, and I saw them having money and all of this power and status within the communities. And that's what I wanted as a boy. Whilst fighting to get on a swing, I knew that I had to have power so that people can respect me, so I didn't have to fight, because there was boys that just said get off, that didn't have to fight. So I knew that they had already power, and I wanted that also. So from small age, you wanted to be recognized, to be not to be the weak one.
I want to go back a little bit, and you mentioned that all of your brothers joined different gangs.
Yep.
Can you tell me what happened? I know there was an incident between you and your brother. Would you mind running me through that whole story?
Definitely. Well, like I said, there came a time in my life where I was climbing the ladder within the gang structure. And my youngest brother was looking up to me as a role model. And he also wanted what his older brothers had. He also wanted to be respected, to be recognized, to have money in your pocket. And they told him, if you want what your older brothers have, if you want what your brother have, there's something that you need to do. You need to go and prove yourself that you will be loyal to the structure and this community that you want to join. And the one thing that you need to do is to go and kill your own brother.
I mean, I know that gangs have initiations.
Yeah.
And I know they're pretty ruthless. But this just seems almost psychopathic, This seems cruel. Why would they make your brother do that?
Look, people wanted to take me out already. But the structure that I was in, they couldn't come near me. Not that they couldn't come near me, they could have taken me out at any time, but I always somehow got away most of the time. So and that was one of my rival gangs that I was fighting against. And they told him, look, if you want this, and they saw the opportunity for him to do the deed that they wanted to do a long time ago, and I wouldn't expect him to do it. And really, I didn't expect him to do it. And I can remember the day when I was standing the day that it actually happened. I was standing on my mom's stoop. A car pulled up in front of my mom's house. And he got out, and there was 3 other guys with him. And I can remember that I walked up. When I walked to them, I had this warm feeling inside of me that something was going to happen, But the person that I thought I was, I didn't care, because that's just who I was, And when I got by them, I could see that these guys were out to kill. And I knew that day that today I'm going to die. I didn't know who was going to shoot me, but I knew one of them was going to shoot me. I was so heartbroken on the inside of me when I saw my own brother putting his hand on the gun and taking it out. On the inside, I was broken to see my own flesh and blood from the same mommy, the same daddy, standing in front of me ready to kill me. I can't explain what I felt that day. But it was this brokenness and betrayal, of what was going to happen here in front of me. Because in the gang war, if you take out a knife for a person, it's like you already stabbed him. When you took out the gun, it's like you already shot him. So when he took out that gun, I knew that it was the end of me. My words to them was, you must kill me. I was prepared to give up my life that day because of who I thought I was. I was prepared to give up the potential, the gifts, and everything inside of me because of this life that I was living. My words to him was, "Sy moet my doodmaak, you must kill me." But on the inside, I kind of said, "Lord, help me." But I couldn't say it with my lips because that was like giving power away. I'd say, "Sy gaan krag weggee." So I didn't say, "Here, help me nie." I said, "Maak my dood." And he took out the gun and he lifted it up. And in my face, there's 2 marks. This side of my face, there's a mark here where the bullet went in. This side here of my face, there's a mark where the bullet came out. I can remember the shot went down. And I fell down to the ground, and they started running, shouting the number is full, meaning that they fulfilled what I needed to do, and I was on the floor, the blood running down my face. All I can remember is my family's faces flashing in front of my face, those who passed away and those who were still living. I was put into a car, I felt that like everything happened so all over the show for me. And I was rushed to Grootske Hospital. And on my arrival at the hospital, I was clinically declared dead. There was no more heartbeat. The doctors gave hope upon my life. My families gave hope upon my life. My friends gave hope upon my life. And in that time when everybody gave hope upon my life, God gave me a second chance, I was brought back. They resuscitated me. They injected me into my heart. And when I opened my eyes, I just heard the doctor saying, we got him back. We got him back. And that's where I actually got a second chance from God to change my life. But my life didn't change. Because I woke up with so much unforgiveness, so much betrayal from my own family towards what my brother did. And I wanted to kill my brother. My friends came and they asked me, hoe gaan ons maak? What we're going to do. My words to them is that you guys must do what you need to do, but leave my brother. I even told the cops that it was an accident because I didn't wanted him to go to prison because I wanted to kill him myself. That's the hurt I had inside of me.
And when you were lying there, did you ever try to think about what was going through your brother's mind that got him to the point to do what he did?
That wasn't on my mind. My mind was just, when I get to you, I'm going to kill you. I didn't care about, because he already did the thing. I didn't care what was going through his mind, where he was, because they went in and that's where it ended. My mind was just, when I woke up there, ek gaan vir jou doodmaak. I'm going to kill you. Yeah, revenge.
And I mean, it's incredible that you survived because it looks like it's gone almost straight through your temple.
Yeah, I think what the doctors said that it's a miracle, and that God kind of orchestrated that bullet just to go the right ways, because like if it went through my eyes, I would have died. It went to my brains, I could have died, but it was just orchestrated. The only thing that kind of got damaged is my sinus. I don't have any sinus. And a bit of my jawline was bowled up a bit, but otherwise, I'm normal.
And how long was it? How long were you in hospital for?
Look, I wasn't too long. I actually booked myself out of the hospital because I thought that they would want to come and finish the job within the hospital, because that's what some of our guys did, or some of the gang members within the gang structures, they do. They come in, if they're still alive, they come and finish you off in hospital. So I kind of booked myself out of the hospital and started planning his murder.
What's up, everyone? I'm sorry for interrupting the podcast, but I just wanted to take a minute to say thank you. This year has been really crazy, and so many amazing things have happened. A few months ago, I wouldn't have thought that I would be where I am. To be honest, at the beginning of the year, I felt really lost, and I wasn't too sure what I was doing or where I was going, and I don't know how it happened, but somehow I stumbled upon this podcast, and it's really given me such a direction, and it's something that I haven't had in a long time, a focus and a goal and a drive to do something that I'm really passionate about. And I mean, first of all, I wanted to say thank you to all the guests that have come on here. I don't know how I've got some of the amazing guests I have, but they really make the podcast what it is. I love hearing interesting stories, and it seems like you guys do as well. And I also wanted to say a little thank you to my parents for letting me use a room in their house to create the studio. Hopefully one day we can expand, possibly get out of the parents' house, but for now I'm happy where I am. And I think lastly, I just wanted to say thank you to you guys. Without you, nothing would be possible. It seems like a lot of you are really enjoying the work that I'm putting out. And I know I'm not perfect all the time. I've still got a lot of learning to do. But you guys have given me that space to learn and grow. And for the first time in a long time, my work is actually supporting me. I have never really made money from Instagram or social media at all. And that's why I did make the move to YouTube. Unfortunately, YouTube is pretty strict, and most of my videos have been demonetized. I like to push the boundaries, as I'm sure you can see. I think what we have here is pretty unique, and I don't want to be held back by YouTube's policies and guidelines. So I will keep making content that is going to get me demonetized. So what I've done is I've started a thing called Buy Me a Coffee, and I learned about this through a guy that I watch on YouTube called William Sheepskin. He's awesome. You should go check him out. Basically, it's a platform where you can go and support the work I do. And there's a option to do like a monthly subscription, which will support me monthly, or you can just do like a once-off payment. And this will really help me continue doing the work that I'm doing and not feel bound by YouTube's policies. I just want to end off by saying thank you. And I'm truly excited to see where this podcast can take us next year. But anyway, guys, let's get back to the program. And what was it like for your family when you got home? Because I can imagine that everyone was on edge.
Yeah, no, they knew that there's big business happening now. At that time also, there was so much gang rival now happening within our house. The other gang members came to shot at the house because of the gangs that he was in. Came to shoot at our house, and it was my mommy and my sisters that was at home when the gang members came to shoot on our house. They had to fall down to the ground. They had to fall down when the bullets ran through the windows and through the door. They had to pay for the consequences of our choices. And there was me and my 3 sisters. They had to. There was a time where the police had to come and pick them up to take them to school, so that they can write exams.
And were your sisters involved in any of this kind of activity?
Not at all. They were more like when we were in the gangs. They were more like keep the drugs, keep the gun, or could put that there or whatever. But not really kind of involved. I didn't want my sisters to grow up in the gang structure, because I know what the gangs can do and
They were involved by default.
Yeah.
I mean, even though you say that they were part of it in a way,
yeah.
I can't imagine how terrified they must have been,
Yeah.
being in a family where there's drugs being sold,
Yeah.
and I mean, like gang warfare. Basically, it seems like you were like the epicenter of everything.
Yeah.
Especially all 4 of your brothers being in different gangs.
Definitely. I mean, we were always the first house that the gangs came to, because like we were living, the enemy was living like right around us. So we were the first central house that they would come to come and look or to come and shoot. I can remember one day when my mommy phoned and they said, my mommy told us that the whole road is full of gang members. I'm talking literally the whole road with people standing within bakkies, within taxis, coming to look for us. And there came a time where they had to move out of the house. My mom had to move out of her own house. My sisters had to move out of their house, live at friends, because it was too chaotic at our house, They finished their matric, all my sisters. They finished their matric. They knew what they wanted in life, so they already tuned their mind towards what they wanted, even though sometimes we kind of rope them in or pull them in to do certain stuff for us. They knew what they wanted, and they finished their matric. They didn't take young men that was involved in gangs and so forth. So they already knew what they wanted in life.
When you left hospital, right?
Yeah.
When was the first time that you saw your brother?
We kind of lived life apart. We kind of lived life apart. We didn't. He made sure that he never crossed my path. But there came a time, like I said, when I left the hospital, when I planned his murder, I actually planned how I'm going to feel when I shoot him, how I'm going to do it, and everything. And the day when I stood in front of him with a gun in my hand, I couldn't pull that trigger. The feeling that I thought I would have, I didn't have that feeling. I so much wanted that feeling because there was nobody around me. It was just me and him. All I had to do was to pull that trigger. But I couldn't bring myself to do it. Not that I had fear or anything or nothing like that, but I just couldn't bring myself to kill my own brother. Because when I stood in front of him, it took me back to the days when we were young. I got flashbacks of how we grew up, what we did as young boys together. Because the two of us are 2 years apart, so they in the community, they thought we were twins. Because we looked exactly alike. And I just couldn't bring myself to kill him. And I told him, if you don't leave this province. If I don't kill you today, other people is going to kill you. And we lived separate lives away from one another. But there came a time when I had to change my way of living. When I was rejected by many people within my community. When I was rejected by my family. When I was rejected by those who loved me. Because I thought that nobody cared for me anymore. I thought that my life was over. That I messed up so many times and people gave me so many chances and that I've burnt all the bridges that there was no return for me. And so many of our young men out there are on that place.
I mean, did you and your brother ever rekindle and kind of start your relationship back up?
We did, but that was after I changed. I had to first change my ways. I had to first change of who I was within my past, that we could make right. Because otherwise we wouldn't have made it right.
And where is your brother now?
My firstborn is 14 years old on the 25th. And 3 months before she was born, I can remember my brother went to prison and I went to visit him in prison. And a week before he came out of prison, I said, I'm going to hook up with you. And it was exactly a week when he got out of prison, the Saturday. I came from shopping with my wife. I went to sit on the bed with my burger. My wife was due almost 3 months before my firstborn came out. And I thought that today is Saturday, tomorrow is Sunday. I'm going to preach by a church in Grassy Park. And I said, I'm going to take my brother with me to church so that he can just have the feeling of church again. And with that thought, saying that I want to take him to church, the phone rang. And when the phone rang, it was one of my baby sisters phoning and said they just shot your brother. And I was devastated because we reconciliated. We made peace with each other. We did stuff together again. We forgave one another. But now with this thought that I'm going to take him to church, a phone call came and they said, they just killed your brother. I jumped up and I went to my wife. I said, they just killed my brother. I drove to Mitchell's Plain. On my way to Mitchell's Plain, I was prepared. I started planning. I was prepared to give up everything that I believed in for 6 years, that it was giving me life, to go and revenge his death. I phoned my old friends and I said, when I get there, the firepower must be there and the manpower was there. When I got there, the firepower was there. The manpower was there. But as I approached that table where it was, it's like God speaking to me and God telling me, Denzil, if you want to do today what you want to do in your mind, today will be the last day. You will die with your brother today. And I had to make a choice. And I said, guys, the thing that I wanted to do, I can't do it. I wash my hands off. I washed this blood off my hands and I turned my back. It was very hard for me to turn my back. But if I did what I had to do that day, I wouldn't have seen my firstborn. I wouldn't have seen my wife. I would have died that day, So it was hard, but I had to do it. Today, I see the purpose why I didn't have to do it. I always say a seed must die, fall, and die for something to germinate from the ground. Because of his death, the uncle that came to kill me, he stopped his drug dealings and he changed his way of living. My mom stopped her drug dealing and changed her way of living. So something good came from his death. He didn't die in vain. And that's what I always say. Change came for him, but it came in an ugly way. Change came for me, and I can still live. Change came for a young boy, a best friend of mine, 16 years old, did well in soccer. If he lived today, he would have been the best soccer player. Academically, he was well educated. He would have been a lawyer. So there were choices for him to live in his potential. But he chose to move with the wrong friends. He moved with us. And he started dabbling with the wrong things. And I can remember one day we were standing on the corner selling drugs. And the drugs was few. And I went to go and get some more drugs. And when I went, 5 shots went off. When I got to him, all 5 shots was through his body. That young boy died in my arms, 16 years old, with the potential that he had of becoming the best soccer player, or becoming a lawyer or a doctor or whatever he wanted, a dream that he had. He died with that potential, and he took that potential to the grave. Sheldon, my brother, he died with that potential that he had within him, and he took that potential to the grave. Today, I have the opportunity to live out my potential that was given to me into other people's lives, telling them and awakening that potential that's within them, not to go to the grave, but to live it out to the fullest of their abilities.
When did you decide that this life wasn't for you anymore, and that in order to become the person that you wanted to be as a kid, you had to make a change?
I think turning point for myself, if I would touch on the turning point for myself, I became tired of being tired. I became tired of living this negative life. I became tired of wearing this mask that I was wearing, that I was kind of hiding behind this mask, trying to prove myself to other people, trying to be somebody that I'm not. Because every time when I go home at night, I know that the things that I did for that day is not really who I am. It's not really what I was raised up with, the principles by my grandma, my daddy's mommy. I was more near to her, so she reared us very, very well, laid down good principles. I came to that point where I didn't want to live this way anymore, but I was alone. Gave up upon my life, had no more direction in life. All I had was the 16-shooter that I had with me. And I was standing on a field near to a four-way stop. And I heard a sound of music, but I didn't know where the music came from. For a minute, I was thinking that I was hallucinating, I was hearing music. But then the car stopped on the stop street there, on the stop. And in this car was this young boy, minding his own business. Music was playing in his car, windows was all rolled down. And I thought, easy target. I got into the car from the passenger side, opened the door, put the gun against his head, and I asked him the question, do you know who I am? Do you know that I can kill you in this car and think nothing of it? Because that's what my character became. I didn't care about other people's lives because I thought nobody cared about me anymore. And this young boy, he answered me. He said, I don't care who you are. And immediately I started worrying. I started thinking, who are you? What kind of sweets did you, what kind of strong sweets did you eat that are making you the way you are talking? The way he was talking with authority. He knew who he was. And I started thinking I fell back and I started thinking, who is this guy? You know, what gang is he connected to? What family is he connected to? Well, that's what in the gangs for him to be this way that he's in. And I wanted to find out who this boy was. And I asked him, no, who's Zayran, man? Who you? And he answered me, he said, I'm a child of God. And he didn't stop there. He started talking, knowing that there was a gun against his head, knowing that he could die right there. He told me that God loves you, that God has a plan and a purpose with your life. He wants to remove this mask that you are wearing. He even started talking about stuff that he wasn't supposed to know. And I thought to myself, how long was this boy spying on my life to know these things, you know? And then I just came to a point where I surrendered. Even though I had the power in my hand, I surrendered because I didn't want this life anymore for me. I was kind of screaming out for help, but there was nobody to take me. It's almost like you in this ocean and the lifesavers is there, but nobody dares to come and rescue you. So I wanted to be changed. I wanted a better life. I wanted change. I wanted to live my life. I wanted to live my dream. But there was nobody to pull me out. And here this boy stopped and he said that God has a plan with your life. God wants to remove this mask. And I asked him, this God that you are talking about, what can this God do to me? Because I don't want to be this way anymore. I don't want to live this life anymore. I don't want to prove myself to others anymore. I want to start living my own life. What must I do? And I found myself, this boy told me, pray with me. And I prayed with him. He said, say what I'm saying. And I found myself repeating what he was asking me to pray. And I said, Lord, forgive me. Lord, I'm a sinner. Lord, come and live in my heart. Make me your child. I don't want to live this way anymore. And that day when I thought I hijacked that car, God hijacked my life. And I gave my life over to him. And I got out of the car. And this boy, he drove on. And my mom was the first person that I saw. And I told him, Mom, Ma. We called him Ma. I found something. And normally when I find something, it's normally a lot of money or stolen stuff or whatever. My mom asked me, what did you steal now again? You know. And I told my mom, I stole nothing, Ma. I actually accepted God into my life. And I'm happy about it. And that day, 3 things happened. The first thing that happened is my mom took her arms and wrapped it around me. And she held me. And I don't know that. That's strange to me for my mom to do that. The second thing that happened, I saw tears running from my mom's eyes. And she was a very hard woman. I can remember when you did stuff. One time, 2 incidents. One time, I did something. And as a young boy, she took me to the room. And the iron was already plugged into the socket, or it was there in the socket. And she closed the door, and she just took out the home iron, and she rolled the cord around her hands, and she hit me with the home iron. And wherever the home iron fell, that's where I burned. And another incident is, she was also a drug dealer. So she left me in charge. She went away for the weekend. And I decided, I'm going to smoke all the drugs up. I'm going to use all the money up and then just make a plan, cut little holes in the walls and say that the cop chased me and I got shot on. And then I told her the story, but you can't lie to your mom. Your mommy looks right through you, you know. And I had to deal with the consequences. She found a brother, which was a gang leader, and she told him, I give you the right to come and kill my child. And I can remember the day when it happened. When they came, him and another gang leader came to my house, and they came to kill me. But that day, it came to where they had guns and I had guns, and it was I'm prepared to give up my life. Are you prepared to give up your life? And that's where it ended, and we came to a conclusion that we're going to work it out, and I'm going to work the money back for the
You're
money
gonna make
that
it
I
right.
used. Yeah, I'm going to make it right. I make amends through working for her. So she was a hard woman, But that day I saw tears running from her face. And I saw a different side of her. And the one thing that really kicked my wind out of my stomach was just the words that she told me. Denzil, I love you. That kicked my wind out. The words, I love you, kicked my wind out. I was a big boy, but it kicked my wind out. I was in my late 20s when she told me that. And that really kicked my wind out.
Was that the first time she
The
had ever
first
said
time I hear my mom telling me that she loves me, because we never grew up with words that I love you, you're going to keep on what you're doing, or a kiss in the morning or whatsoever. There wasn't that. We grew up in an era where this is what life is, this is what you do, this is where you do it, and this is how you do it. And that was life. So that's what my mom told me that day. And I knew that I had to go and tell my friends about this change. And I knew that I was going to die, or I could die that day, when I'm going to tell them that now I'm a born-again Christian. I committed my life to God. But I knew that I had to do it. Because in my heart, I knew that this was my way out. That this was my help that I was looking for. This was the void that was always inside of me that I was looking for. And I'm not going to give this up for anything in life. So I was prepared to die, as I was prepared to die way back when I was young, as a young boy in the gangs. I found something inside of me that I didn't want to give up. I found life inside of me that I never felt before. And I held on to that life with both of my hands. And I was prepared to give up everything that I had for that life. And that's how I got stripped from everything. And that day I went to them and I told them, and I took my Bible with me. I'm going to tell them, I told them, guys, I'm out of the gangs. I found God in my life. And I'm not turning my back anymore on Him. Or I'm not going to turn my back on God, because I found something in Him. And they told me, we're only giving you 3 weeks for this Christianity talk that you're talking. Then you're going to be back doing what you do good. Then you're going to be back doing the negative. And today, I can say it's 25 years later, I haven't turned my back. I haven't gone back, because I knew what I found, I will never find again in my life. It's like a treasure that you find that never runs dry. It's like a treasure that you find that always bring refreshing waters to your life every day. And I will not ever give that up for my life, because if I turn my back today, I know that I'm going to die. If I choose to go back to the world that I came from, I am going to die. And I'm not willing to give up my life for something that's not going to give me life. So I chose life. And that's why life was given to me. Because when I chose life, I chose it, and God could see in my heart that it was true. That's why He gave me that wife. That's why He gave me that 3 daughters. Faith is what I needed. That was my firstborn. Hope was my secondborn. That is what I needed in that time. And grace is my lastborn. And that was what I needed at that time. So faith, hope, and grace was given to me. My wife was given to me. Roxanne was given to me. And that's why I am standing in the gap for many others, because I was given a second chance. And I will never turn my back on anybody that's within the gang structure if they reach out for that help. Because I reached out, and there was somebody that stood in the gap for me.
And what has it been like since you started working with Jared at the Second Chance Foundation? What work do you do with him?
Look, like I said, I kind of do the community work, where I work with different communities. And if I look to Mitchell's Plain, Hanover Park, Elsie's River, and many other Delft communities that I work in, we work with guys that are literally in the gangs. We work with young people that are dabbling in the gangs. And we sit down with them and we tell them that we're not better than you. We came from that life that you are living. And there's a better way. But you need to make a choice whether you want that better way or that better life. And we kind of, you see, within our communities, the council don't come to clean our communities anymore. So what we do, we say, you take ownership of your community. You start cleaning your community. You start making gardens within your community. You start being the role model within your community. And even the gang leaders within the community, they're part of this community projects. Because I can make a garden, but I go home. Or I can make a garden and I live around the corner, but the gang leader or the drug dealer lives in the road where the garden is. Whose responsibility is to look after it? That people that lives around it. So they must take ownership, to look after, to clean their roads, to sweep the roads, because it starts by them, not only by me. I only came to put the initiative there.
To facilitate it.
To facilitate it, yeah. And I can remember one day we made the garden. There was a drug dealer living in the road there, and there was a few plants that miraculously jumped out of the ground and ran to some houses there. So there was holes. And they called me, the young boys that I'm working with, they called me, they said, Uncle Denzil, there's holes there, the flowers is out. And I said, okay, there's nothing we can do. We're not going to give up. We're going to keep on doing what we do. But Uncle Denzil, aren't you going to do anything? I said, it's not my responsibility alone. So I went around to the drug dealer and I said, look here, you live in the road. We've got good relationship. As boys, we grew up together. And I know who you are. You know who I am. But that's in the past. You know who I was in the past. But you know who I am right now. And this is what I do every day. So, this is your community.
You must take care of it.
Let's take care of it. And I'm telling you, I went around, and it wasn't long after the boys came back. They say, Uncle Denzil, you won't believe it. That plants ran back and they jumped into the hole and they closed again. So the plants came back. And that drug dealer took ownership. He went and told these men who took the plants out and tell them to bring it back, and they brought it back. I didn't even have to go and plant it again or throw it close. They did it themselves. And that's what it's all about. That's how we're going to change. I can remember when I was younger, much younger, when I did something wrong, the auntie around the corner or the uncle around the corner would give me a hiding. And then when I ran home to tell my mom and my daddy, I would get another hiding. But nowadays we can't do that. But somehow we need to still stand in the gap. We need to still take the responsibility. Even though it was not your responsibility to look out for that child or whatsoever, because you've got your own problems at home, you've got your own kids. But if you start standing in the gap for others, then God will take care of your kids. And God will put other people in place to look after them, Not that you, but it's all about that, man. It's all about that. That's how you build a community, man.
It's so incredible how a small action can have such a big ripple effect. Like the day that kid stood up to you in the car.
Yep.
It changed you.
Absolutely.
And from that action, from you changing, you changed the people around you as well.
There's ripple effects, yes.
And sometimes these effects are hard to see. But I do believe when one person makes a change, automatically the people around him will be affected.
There's the energy.
The energy is put out into the world.
Absolutely, Josh. You're right there.
And I just want to say, I wish you all the best, man, with your beautiful family.
Thanks, Josh, man.
The amazing work you're doing with the Second Chance Foundation.
Yep.
Keep being a leader.
Yep.
Keep changing people's lives like you are doing.
Definitely.
And just look out for yourself,
Absolutely. Thanks, Josh. Thank you for having me as a guest today. It was an honor for me to spend time with you. And keep on doing what you're doing, putting other people on the platform and allowing them also to bring out their voice and to tell people that there is a better way out. Thanks, Josh, man.
I'll keep trying my best. But anyway, that brings us to the end of this episode of the Wide Awake podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. And I will see you next week. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much,
Josh, man.